How's it going? Fox back again for sound design tutorials. This is part 1 in a 3-part series covering Heavyocity C tools. It's a trio of synths, sort of an homage to yesteryear. The first one, what we're going to be going over today, is called Capsule, and it's sort of a replication, or it's not a replication because it's not mimicking any particular drum synth, but it is like an old analog drum synth. We're going to take it to bits piece by piece. Try and explain it to you as best as I can without waffling on too much. So yeah, this is it. It's a one-page interface, if you like. You can swap between part A and B in the sound source modules, but everything is all in one window. You've got no pop-up windows. It's really easy to navigate and work through. I'll just switch you to this scene quick. So yeah, we've got basic transport controls. This is mainly for if you are using it in standalone mode, or even inside your DAW you can still use this. You can record all your sequences inside Capsule on its own, exclusive of your DAW. As long as the play roll is running inside your DAW, as you can see at the minute, mine's running at the top, then your sequence will record inside itself. All you have to do is hit record, play the notes in, and away you go. We'll talk through that a bit more detail in a bit. Transport controls are real basic. You've got to play. Obviously, it plays the sequence that you've made. Record to record new steps into it. You can set the rate or how fast the sequence plays back. 1/16 is your standard. You can choose a number of steps in a pattern. Number of patterns you have are up to 4. This cycle says how many patterns it's going to play over. If you just want it to cycle through the first pattern, or the first 2, 3, 4, and so on. You can erase the last inputted note. You can erase all notes, or you can copy all of the 2 and then paste them to another section. It's really easy, real straightforward to use. I've just got one of the factory kits loaded up at the minute. I'll just show you a few of them. This one's called Retronix. This is a little beat that they make for you. Black Omen. This is one of my favourites called Tiny Jungle. A bit more industrial, techno-y style group. It's very easy to cycle through your presets. There are 40 different kits, if you like. Each kit has its own drum groove ready made in for you. You can just load that, play it, tweak it if you want. If you want to start creating your own sequence, you load the group that you want. Press erase all. That erases all notes from all of the instruments. So yeah, your basic transport controls, you play, record. I'll show you how easy it is to record into it quickly before we go over the sound sources, and I'll talk about what they do. So make sure your play roll is playing in the background by pressing play in your DAW. Set the metronome going if you want to give you a start. Press record. Turn your metronome off once you got something going. There you go, it's that easy to record something, and that, as you can see, if we switch back to scene 1 again, no MIDI notes or anything has been drew inside Ableton. That is all just inside the sequencer as itself. I would believe you can then transfer it to your DAW by making sure the lane is highlighted, pressing play, and record. I was wrong, maybe I'm missing something there. I'll check that later on. I'll probably talk about that in the next video. Yeah, I thought you would be able to transfer the sequences out once you've made them inside your DAW. Maybe it's possible, maybe not. The other way of doing it, which I prefer to do anyway, rather than keeping the sequences inside Capsule, is by recording it directly into your DAW. So you do it exact opposite for this. Don't record inside, hit record on the lane inside Ableton. Exactly the same thing though, just play it on your MIDI keyboard. The only thing then is you got to do your quantizing inside Ableton. It's not too much of a bother really. It's how I do most of my work, by recording it inside Ableton. So for this purposes, we'll just create a 1-bar loop. We'll do a 2-bar loop actually. We'll start again. Just get a basic drum in there, and then we'll start talking about these different modules. We'll load the bass drum in there if you like, or it is called bass drum. So we'll load a basic floor to the floor in there. We'll record it in. Just quickly quantize this. So yeah, now we've got that bass drum rolling in the background. We'll talk about the parameters you've got for the bass drum. Really straightforward. If anybody has made a kick before or used any sort of analog drum machine, this is going to be very, very easy for you to get the grasp of. The first control is obviously the main volume. This is how much volume goes into the compressor, the saturator, and then the gated reverb. When we get there, you've got a pitch control. Very handily, it tells you what pitch the note is playing at the top. Easy to pitch it to your track, or get it in sync with the other elements in your program. So yeah, A1, I generally work in A. So the general pitch you've got. The wave, this switches between a sine wave and a triangle wave. It can give varying different harmonics. Triangle's a little bit more hollow than a sine wave. Pitch decay is how long it takes the pitch, the click to decrease. The shorter decay, the more punch it's got. The decay, this is for the volume envelope. This is the overall length of the bass drum. You can have a real percussive short bass drum, or something a lot more, a longer decay on the amp envelope, letting a lot more go through. Pitch mod, this is the envelope for the pitch. This is how far it's going to push it up before it comes back down. It's like the prominence of the click, if you like. This is a noise source. Adds more of a white noise, percussive click to the click of the bass drum. Then you've got a basic attack intensity of the overall kick. Soften it or push it out. Drive, this adds overdrive to it to make it a bit more distorted, a bit more classic 808 style. With a longer decay. You can, that's why it's called a bass drum rather than just a kick generator, because you can use it as a kick and a bass sort of all in one. Nice and straightforward. We'll keep it like that for now. Now we're going to bring in the snare, which by default is D2 on your keyboard. We'll just record that in. Just quantize it quickly. So we'll solo the snare for now. We'll talk about the controls we've got over the snare. So same as the kick, you have the overall pitch. It's a bit hard, bit harder to define the pitch of a snare, but nevertheless you still have control over that. So we'll keep it on A as well, so it sits in well with the bass drum. You've got the general mix between the oscillator and the noise source. It's a sine wave, I believe, and a noise source generally. The more to the left you go, the more of a duff you're going to get, and the more snarey it's going to sound rather than a clap. So if you push it towards the oscillator, bit high pitched at the minute. Let's go to A1. Pitch modulation controls the intensity of a short decay envelope in the oscillator pitch. So the less decay, the more percussive it's going to be. This is the decay for the overall oscillator. So yeah, noise color, you can make the noise source brighter or darker. The lower you go, you generally get more of a lo-fi sort of feel. This is the decay for the noise. You remember this snare is a blend between an oscillator and a noise source. You can really let the noise source decay go out and give it sort of a longer tail or a shorter tail. The attack and the drive are exactly the same as in the bass drum. You can add more punch or make the notes more subtle at the start. Overdrive it. Give it a bit more weight. We'll bring the volume of this down. We'll bring the bass drum back in. We'll then go on to the closed hat. In the hi-hat section you have a closed hat and an open hat, but there is only one volume for both. Well, they didn't create another separate one. I suppose they just wanted to keep it 8 channels. It's something to do when you do the 16 outputs inside Reactor. One of these will be the left channel, one of them will be the right. But nevertheless, one volume controls the closed hat and the hi-hat. So we'll just record the hi-hat in now. Again, then we'll solo it, and I'll talk through the controls for that. Again, we'll just quickly quantize it. So, solo the noise source. Filter does exactly what you think. I believe it blends from a high pass to a band pass to a low pass. So if you want a more lower sound, keep it to the left. A more middled one to the center. To the right, a more high, typical hi-hat sound. Again, this is a blend between an oscillator source and a noise mix, so you've got the control between the two. The overall pitch of the sound can be controlled again. Although you don't get a physical feedback in the top corner of this, you only generally get it for the bass drum and the snare. Decay for the closed hi-hat. Can let it run out, get some more lo-fi sort of sound, or bring the decay back, be a lot more percussive. You've got individual volumes itself inside actually for the two. So you've got the volume for the closed. Sorry about that. So yeah, you've got the volume for the closed hat and the open hat inside the channel, but you still only got one master volume going out. So we'll make this nice and percussive. We'll bring in the open hat, record it in. Quickly quantize it again. You're going to need to drag these off slightly because the closed hi-hat and the open hi-hat cut themselves off typically. So if we just drag these MIDI notes ever so slightly to the right. So yeah, open hi-hat spread. This spreads the harmonics. This does it for both the closed and the hi-hat. You've then got the decay of the open. Control the length of the tail and also the volume. Bring it down so it's in sync with the closed hi-hat. We'll then go on to the toms, of which you have 3. Real straightforward. Pitch for tom 1, pitch for tom 2, pitch for tom 3. These ones it does show you in the top left. So if we set the pitch of this one at, if we go for A1, to get a sort of chorded feel, to keep it in check, you could go A, then C for tom 2, C2, and then E2 for tom 3. There you go. All 3 of these come out of one sort of sound source, if you like. There are no individual volume controls for the toms like there were for the closed and the open hi-hat. We'll record some of these toms in quick. Quickly quantize them again. So we'll solo this. Toms, we'll talk about the controls. You got control over the overall punch. More to the left, it's more clicky, a lot more percussive. Shape controls the cut-off of the filter. Lets a lot more higher harmonics through when it's further to the right. Drive. Does exactly what you would imagine. This drive knob is more like, I would call it Tomify, there's no such word, but it's going to change it more from a percussive click to more like a real life tom. Pitch decay. It's the pitch modulation that gives it the click. You can control the decay of that. This is the overall decay of the amp envelope. Again, make them more percussive or more tom-like. The decay scale. Scales the decay from each tom at 0 setting. All toms will have the same decay. At higher settings, the higher toms will decay faster than the lower toms. Very neat. Pitch mod again, how much modulation is controlling the pitch. Make it more click, the noise source. Attack, soften the attack. Very, very versatile this tom section is. So we'll bring the other sections back in. Page B, we then go on to a clap. I'm really pleased with this clap in this, actually. It's a lot better. These 4 percussion units, actually, you can do them, you can make them exactly what you want. You've got a lot of options. You can have them off. You can use 2 signs, a noise source, synth, clap, digital click, and zap. They're all really straightforward what they do. The digital one is like a lo-fi sound. The clap it gives you basic settings for a clap. Noise source, you can use that as another synth, another hi-hat if you like, and a synth. We'll change this clap to synth quick. You can almost use this one as your bass. We'll probably do that later on. We'll change it back to clap for now. We'll layer the clap with a snare. So yeah, the density of the clap. We're gonna quickly solo it again. So Density of the clap to the there must be a bandpass filter in it or something. Further to the right, there's more air. Further to the left, a lot more closed, a lot more rated. The rate. This doesn't work when you're on clap. This is for something else. Again, the weight and the density, they both control like the harmonics and the characters of the sound. The colour, this is the colour of the white noise source giving you the hiss. To the right, a lot brighter. To the middle, a lot duller. The tail, this is the... It's almost like a reverb tail, but it's the release on the amp envelope on the clap. Yeah, percussion 2. This one is on a noise source. Again, you can use it like a shaker. Real straightforward. Cut off. How much you're going to let through. Also resonance. Attack softens the attack. Decay is the length of the overall sound. Pitch decay, you can control the decay of the pitch. These are all very similar in regards to the toms that we did earlier. How much the decay is affected by the pitch mod is the mod. Real straightforward. So we'll just put this in as another shaker, this noise source. Quickly quantize those in. So Zap. So we've gone through clap, noise source. You then have a Zap. A Zap is exactly what you would imagine it. A real fast pitch modulation on an oscillator of sorts. So we'll keep this on Zap. You can have the start pitch and the end pitch. If you have them very similarly, it's only going to move the pitch ever so slightly. If you have the start low and that pitch high, it's like an upwards one. If you have them the other way around, it's a zap downwards. You've got an attack. How fast the zap is, and a decay. How long it takes for it to finish the pitch modulation cycle. Real straightforward. So the two signs. Clap, noise, two signs. Mode. It's just like a low pass filter. Two different signs. The pitch of the first. All it is two sine waves. You can control the pitch of them. The decay of both. Get some tin canny cowbell, sort of old school cowbell signs with that. We won't bother recording that in. Two signs, noise, synth. Talked over this briefly earlier. This is more like a saw wave, I believe. You have a filter with resonance. There is an envelope you can apply to the filter, which is the mod. You can really make percussive sounds if you have it closed, open wide with a short decay. Set this to an A as well, A4. We will record this one in quickly. Quantize that in quickly. Let's talk about the last one now. This is a click. The digital, we'll show you what the digital one sounds like. This is a noise source with a lot of lo-fi behind it, I do believe. Decay is the overall tail of the sound. You can tune it. P. Tune is the noise. I think P must be the pitch, the overall pitch. Pulse width. I don't really use that one myself since I've been playing with it. I'd sort of keep it on the click. This is like another percussive hit. The length of the click. Filter, how much you're going to let through. Cut off applies a low pass filter with resonance. So again, really straightforward. And the LFO. So yeah, that's all the sound sources. So once you've built your basic groove like that, and then goes into the other section, I'll quickly talk about this step sequencer at the bottom here. And when you are recording inside Capsule itself, rather than doing it inside Ableton like I have, you can see all my MIDI is being recorded inside Ableton. When you record it inside, you don't have to generally play it on your MIDI keyboard. You can add the notes per step sequencer. I'll just show you how this works quickly. So if we go back to page A, erase them all, which they are. If we just move over to another section, hit the play, you can draw the notes in. If we set just a 1 bar loop going again, so yeah, every time it changes colour is another quarter note leading into a bar, if you get what I mean. So 4 quarter notes a bar, 4 quarter notes bar. If you accent them, it just gives it a little bit more prominence. Go to the snare, every other, close. It's like full velocity and half velocity, the accent is. So real straightforward, very easy just to draw everything in. Again, we'll just finish the sequence off. This is only for using it when you're doing it in standalone mode. I take it. If when I read the manual through fully, if I find out that you can transfer this into Ableton, then I'll let you know how. Obviously, the notes that you're going to input in the bottom, it's whatever you click on at the bottom is in black. So yeah, we then have, that's it. That's pretty much the sound source done. I mean, I've probably been waffling along a bit, but most of the sound sources are identical in regards to the pitch cut off, the decay. They've all got the same sort of dials in there. Once you get your head around one, it's easily to transfer to the other modules. Click between page A and B, where it goes from bass drum, snare, close hat, open hat, the toms. Page B is then your percussion, your full percussion. We then have, in the sound source page, you have a dedicated LFO which you can modulate the amp with, or the pitch. It's a triangle, I believe. The rate automatically syncs to the clock. So if we set it to amp, it may just be for the percussion. Percussion 4. Percussion 4. Just for percussion 4, that is. You can use it to change the pitch of the zap and other elements that you use. I must admit, I thought that was for the main, for all of the instruments together. Obviously not. Let's change it to a synth. Get some crazy modulation going on there when you do it on the pitch. Very, very cool. Yeah, it makes sense, I suppose, because when you go to page A, it's gone. So page B, it's just for percussion 4. It's only for this 4th percussion instrument that LFO, dedicated LFO is for. So, once you've made your sound, you've got your program running, whether it's inside Capsule itself or whether it's inside your DAW. It then goes into this effects chain here. It goes into the compressor first. Being a drum synthesizer, you're going to want to compress all your sounds and glue it together. I'm not going to talk through this. It's basic compression rules if you know how a compressor works. How I do my drum compression is a middling ratio, soft attack, long attack, sorry, quick release. You then have a low pass filter and a high pass filter to attenuate the signal coming in. You can hear the compressed signal. Real straightforward basic compressor. You then have a saturator. No on or off for this, it's on constantly. Input gain is how much is going into the saturator. Tilt controls how the effect reacts to different frequencies. At higher settings, the saturator will distort more with bass heavy signals. At lower settings, the saturator will have a heavier effect on high frequencies. You can really hear that, gives more prominence to the lows. You can boost the output of the saturator, or the output of the whole signal coming out the other side of the saturator. You then have a gated reverb. I should turn all these off actually. I didn't realise that was on while I was doing this demo. So a gated reverb, what a gated reverb is that the audio signal comes into it, it gets pushed out the other end reverbed, and then you can apply a gate to it to give it a pumping effect. These are the controls for the reverb. These are the controls for the pump, if you like. So you've got pre-delay of the reverb. This is how long it takes for the audio signal to hit whatever it's hitting to come back as a reverb. The position controls the blend between the early reflections and the late reflections. Real straightforward. The size of the reverb. The decay is how long the tail is. Low frequency dampening, you can dampen the low frequencies. High frequencies, you can take more of the hiss out of the reverb. This is the overall stereo width of the reverb and the level. If we just solo this synth Zap for now, we'll just quickly go over these reverb controls again a bit more slowly so you can hear what effect they're having on the sound. So these are your sends for each instrument. So if we said we wanted only this synth sound that we've got on percussion 4 with that LFO on it going through it, we'll turn it on, push it on full. The size, bigger reverb, the longer the decay, the longer it's going to last. Position, pre-delay, how long it takes to come back. The greater pre-delay, you're going to hear a definite gap between the time it takes for the sound to come back. Low frequency dampening, this pushes a high pass filter up. High frequency dampening, when it's on dead zero, it's going to let all the high frequencies through. As you push it to the right, it's going to apply a low pass filter. You can hear it's a lot more duller, it's not letting so much of the high frequencies through. The width is the stereo width for the reverb. You can make it mono and really wide. Level is the overall level of the reverb, the volume of the reverb once it's reflected and come back. So we'll bring the other elements in. We'll bring the reverb in on some of these as well. Obviously we're not going to want to do it on the kick or the snare. So yeah, once you've got that going, you've then got the threshold and the amount of sidechain compression, if you like, controls the intensity of the pumping effect. The threshold is the level at which point the volume level at which point before it starts getting pumped. So the lower the threshold, the more you're going to hear that pumping effect. This is how you can control the length of the gate, if you like. This sets the shortest time. This sets the longest time. So if you have them both, well, the high one all the way to the left and that one to the right, quite a long gate, you're not really going to hear it. As you bring them closer together, it's going to create a definite more pumping effect. Amount knob, once you've set your level, the amount knob controls how audible it is, pretty much. If you have it on 0, you're not going to hear nothing. So yeah, I mean, it's easy to wash everything over if you have a load of stuff on it like I have. If I was using the reverb, making these sounds myself, I'd probably just have it on the snare or the hi-hat and just that zap. But yeah, that's basically it, I would say, in a nutshell, but it's been quite a long video. You do have some options up the top here. You can see this little transport, this little settings icon. The key mapping, you can set it to general MIDI, or you can set it for use with machine, because this is designed to be used inside Native Instruments Reactor, whether it's the standalone version or the free player. You can change the noise mode from analog to digital, slight subtle differences. I generally like to keep it in the analog zone. The reverb routing, I'll look through this. What it says here, selects the internal routing for the reverb effect. Serial, the reverb signal is blended with the main mix before it reaches the compressor. So the reverb goes into the reverb, gets blended with the main signal, then goes into the compressor. If you change it to parallel, the reverb signal is blended with the main mix after the saturator effect. So it goes into the reverb, into the compressor, then the saturator, or into the reverb, into the saturator, then the compressor. It's a bit tricky to get your head around it. It's subtle differences. If the reverb goes into the compressor rather than bypassing it, it's a lot more defined and a lot more prominent. Again, for me, the serial mode is which I generally use the most. So yeah, there you go. That is Heavyocity Capsule. Very, very capable drum machine. Lots of fun. I really, really enjoyed using this, actually. Depends what kind of style of music you're into. Some of these, if we just, now we've got that sequence running. Play the stop that play. We'll play the sequence that we made actually with the MIDI inside Ableton. So the Future Jungle one's real good. There's loads and loads of stuff to play with. The only thing I will say, there is not an init patch for this or any of these machines inside C-Tools. A little bit strange for me, but it wouldn't take long for you to sort of turn all the volumes off, turn the saturator off, turn the gated compressor off, turn the compressor off, set everything sort of middling, and then save it as your own patch, which I have done inside the other modules. But yeah, for now, that was Heavyocity Capsule. Great little drum synth. There is a link in the description to this if you want to go and buy it. You get this and you get the other two synths as well, which are Capsule, Click, sorry, if I drag it in quickly and show you. This is a string synthesizer and a pulse width mod oscillator that you can blend together. Very, very cool analog sounding. This is brilliant. This is probably my favourite out of the 3 instruments that you get inside this. I'll be going over this next time. Very, very, very versatile. It doesn't look like there's much going on here, but there's a lot of pre-routed functions already set up for you that can easily help you make some really lovely, rich sounding pads. And the last one is Coil. This is an analog oscillator and an FM hybrid mono synth. So good for crunchy basses. I get a lot of requests on my channel for deep house basses and new disco basses. This thing makes really, really good deep house basses very, very quickly. A bit limited by what you can do modulation wise, but again, anything that they think you want to do, it's already set up for you. But yeah, for now, that is me. Stay tuned for the next one. We will be going over Clique. Thanks for watching as always. Cheers.